Welcome to video lecture number 3 of 3 on Homer's epic poem, the Iliad. In this video lecture, I will take about 20 minutes to walk us through book 22 and about 20 minutes to wrap up and go through book 24. So in total, we'll have worked through 6 different books of the Odyssey, of the 24 books, and come to its conclusion. All right, so let's jump to our learning objectives for the video lecture. Students will define and analyze Greek notions of Time, Kleos, Xenia, Theos, and Moira. And in the first 2 video lectures, I've already covered those 5 terms, but we will review all 5 over the course of the discussion of books 22 and 24. Students will identify and analyze examples of Homeric simile. We've done that in the previous 2 video lectures as well. We'll continue to look at examples of those and analyze them in the video. And then on your own, I want you to be able to identify, find other examples in the reading and analyze them. That will be the stuff that comes in class and in the assignments. Students will recall key characters, events, and themes from books 22 and 24 of Homer's Iliad. And specifically, there are lots of tangents that the Iliad goes into, that Homer dives into. And one of those that's going to come in book 24 is the myth of Niobe. And I want to spend a little bit of time with the myth of Niobe. So by the end of this video lecture, I want you also to know that one tangent, that myth of Niobe that Achilles references when we get to book 24. Okay, so let's jump into the actual text. So we are skipping several books at this point. Video lecture number 2 went to the end of book 16, and we are skipping over now. We are skipping book 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. I will point out book 18 is a very famous and important book, and it's in our textbook. Even though I'm skipping over it, we do have access to it in the textbook. And in book 18, Achilles gets his mom, Thetis, who is a goddess, to go to Hephaestus, who is the god of blacksmiths, the god of the forge, the god of fire, and he makes armor. And remember, Achilles lost his armor because Patroclus had worn it out and Hector took it, stripped Patroclus' body, got the armor. That was actually in book 16 and 17. We see the fight over Achilles' armor. So in book 18, Thetis goes and gets him new armor from Hephaestus, the blacksmith god. And the armor is brilliant and beautiful, and the shield especially gets a big passage in book 18 where it describes all of the images on the shield that represent different mythological concepts, and wonderful, wonderful book, but we're gonna leave it at that. Books 19, 20, 21, lots and lots of fighting between the Trojans and Greeks, and I'll just gloss over that very quickly. By the time we come to book 22, Achilles, he is enraged at his grief having lost his best friend Patroclus. He is absolutely enraged, and he has the whole battle, the whole war, the momentum has shifted because of Achilles, right? And we get a nice Homeric simile here on the first page of book 22 describing Achilles. Just as a horse who has won many prizes lengthens his body in an easy gallop, pulling his chariot across the plain, so nimbly and so fast Achilles ran. You have to remember, I don't know if I've emphasized this enough in the first 2 video lectures, Achilles is the greatest warrior on earth, the greatest human warrior. Now, he cannot take on a god. Nobody can take on a god, not even Achilles. But as far as any other human, including Hector, who is the greatest of the Trojan warriors, including Sarpedon, who is a son of Zeus, Achilles is head and shoulders above all of them, right? And here we get a sense, one of the things he's very good at, he's very, very fast. So anytime we come up anytime we encounter a metaphor or a simile, whether it's in Homer or elsewhere, we ask ourselves 2 questions. First, what are the 2 elements being compared? In this case, Achilles is being compared to a horse, a very fast horse. And second, we ask ourselves, what is the significance of the comparison? And here the significance of the comparison is just this idea that Achilles is as fast as a horse, right? It's a beautiful metaphor, a beautiful simile, but it's not a hard one to tear apart, right? And we can easily see what Homer is trying to do, making us see Achilles run across the battlefield and just how fast he is. And that's going to be important for later in the book. Don't forget Achilles' speed. It's not just that he's a great fighter; he is fast as well. And then we get another one right away. So this one now the perspective changes. And at first, Homer has us compare Achilles to a horse. Now another one, and second Homeric simile, right on the first page, right in the same stanza. Priam was the first to notice him sprinting across the plain. He saw the gleam, just like the star that rises in late summer, whose beams shine bright amid the mass of stars at dead of night. The people call it Dog's Star, Orion's dog, which is the brightest star, an evil omen. And I'm happy Homer tells me that it's an evil omen, because I don't know much about the dog star in the 21st century. I don't think it's an evil omen in the 21st century, but in Greek culture it was seen as an evil omen, maybe like we would think of in the 21st century, a black cat, or Friday the 13th. Or any, breaking a mirror, and any sort of omen that we think of, well, this star meant that for him. So, anytime we encounter a metaphor, two questions we ask. What are the two things being compared? Achilles is being compared to the dog star. What's the significance of the comparison? It's an evil omen. So when Priam sees Achilles, he sees something evil. And remember, Priam, if you have forgotten, Priam is the king of Troy. Make sure you got his name tucked away. Remember I said in video lecture 1, 4 Trojans, I want you to know their names well. There's more than 4, but 4 especially. Priam the king, Hecuba the queen, and their oldest son Hector, who and Paris. Paris, the one who steals Helen away and is the cause of the whole war. All right. So here we get some more tender moments, a bit like we had in book 16. And here we've got Priam seeing Hector next from the walls. So Priam is out watching this battle unfold. He's too old to fight himself, but he's watching the battle, and he speaks to Hector, and he says, "Hector, my dear child, do not wait for that man out there alone. Don't wait for Achilles. I beg you, or you will fall and quickly meet your end, you stubborn fool. The son of Peleus, Achilles, has far greater strength than you." Even Priam knows that Hector is no match for Achilles. He says, "I wish the gods loved him, Achilles, the way I do." And he means this. This is satire. This is ironic here, right? Because he doesn't love him at all. If the gods loved Achilles the way Priam does, then dogs and vultures would soon eat his corpse. But that's not going to happen. And in this line too, Achilles has already taken from me many fine sons. And Priam doesn't want to lose his oldest son, Hector, right? Let's go over, and then we get the next page, glossing over and moving right along, and now we get Hector's mother, Hecuba, right, the queen of Troy. She wept, untied her dress, and lifted out one breast, and through her tears spoke words on wings. All right. Pause just a moment. In the 21st century, the idea of a mother showing her adult son her breast sounds a little weird. That culturally doesn't work anymore. But I'm happy Homer's included it here, because we have to set aside our own cultural expectations. And this is not anything creepy or weird or strange in Greek or Trojan culture in ancient times. We see this in other places in ancient literature. A woman showing her breast is a tender moment, but it's a symbol of motherhood as well. So her showing her breast, even though we kind of think that is cringy, it's not at all. It's a way of as a symbol of motherhood, a symbol of nursing a child. It's a reminder, I am your mother. I gave you life. I fed you for the first year of your life. And it's meant to remind him of that so that he will sympathize with her. And again, just like we saw in book 16, when Andromache, his wife, Hecuba, Everyone tried to convince Hector not to go out into war. Here we're getting it again, but again he's not going to listen. Hector, my child, respect a mother's care and pity me. I soothed you with my breast. Remember this, dear child, and come inside. Fight your opponent from behind our wall. And remember, the Trojans have great walls around their city. Poseidon and Apollo built those walls. They're built by gods. Hector would be safe if he comes inside. They don't have to go out and fight on the field. They can just hide inside the city. And both Priam and Hecuba desperately want to get Hector back inside from the fighting. Don't fight Achilles, all right? So both his parents, line 120, so both his parents wept and called out to their beloved son and pleaded with him to come back inside. I'm going to skip ahead down here. He won't come inside. We already know that, and Homer's original audience would have known that too. Achilles draws near, and when Hector sees him, even though in this bit of text up here we saw Hector gathering his courage and saying, no, I'm going to fight. When Hector saw Achilles, he began to tremble. He did not dare stay there. He left the gates and ran away. And this is where the idea of the metaphor earlier, where Achilles was compared up here. Remember, Achilles was compared to a horse running. Here we see Achilles with that great speed. Achilles sprinted after, confident of his own quick feet, as when a hawk, the fastest bird upon the mountain, swoops easily to catch a trembling dove. She flutters underneath him to escape, but he stays close behind and keeps on lunging towards her with sharp shrieks, intent to seize her. So eagerly Achilles flew ahead, and Hector trembled underneath the wall of Troy and moved his legs at topmost speed. So a Homeric simile here. What are the two things we do with a Homeric simile? First, we say, what are the two things being compared? Hector, a hawk. Achilles is being compared to a hawk, and then we get a second one as well, the trembling dove. I'm sorry, Achilles is being compared to a hawk. Hector is being compared to a trembling dove. Second, what's the significance of the comparison? Well, a hawk can kill a dove, right? A dove is no match in a fight for a hawk. All right. Zeus is looking on at this chase as Achilles chases Hector. And remember, Hector is running, but Achilles is pure rage. Achilles is a demigod, a half god, but if he were a full god, he would be the god of uncontrollable rage, right? He would be the god of uncontrollable rage. And why is he enraged? His best friend in the whole world, Patroclus, has been killed, and Hector's the one who killed him. So in the books that we skipped over, Achilles very quickly got over his quarrel with Agamemnon, and all of his rage is now directed at Hector as he chases him. And Zeus says to himself, says to the other gods, the father of the gods and men spoke first. This is appalling. Look, I see a man I love chased around the wall. Zeus loves both of them, actually. Zeus considers both of them a favorite of his human favorites. He loves Hector, and he's appalled by this. But he also loves Achilles, too. But he pities Hector in my heart. And it says here, Hector burned numerous cattle thighs as offerings to me upon the peaks and glens of Ida. And then he makes a mention, remember back in book 16, we thought for a minute maybe Zeus would save his son Sarpedon, who's a half god. And Hera scolded him, said, don't do that. You can't do that. That's Moira. And remember, Moira means fate. The gods are, or the Theos, Theos, and Moira, Moira. Theos cannot change somebody's Moira, their lot in life. And Athena here sounds a lot like Hera did back in book 16. Athena, gray-eyed goddess, answered him, God of the brilliant lightning and dark clouds, Father, what have you said? This man is mortal. He has long since been doomed by fate to die. And the word here that is translated Moira, he has been doomed by Moira to die. And you want to set him free from death, whose name is pain. But go ahead and do it, but none of us will praise what you have done. And And these are almost the exact same words that Hera said back in book 16. And then Zeus responds, no, he will not challenge Moira. Even Zeus will not do that. He says, dear daughter, child of Triton, do not worry. I was not serious in what I said. I want to treat you kindly. So go on. Do as your heart desires. Stop holding back. And Athena loves the Greeks. She loves Achilles. She loves Odysseus. She wants the Greeks to win. So does Hera, the wife of Zeus, right? And so down goes Athena. And she's if you remember in the earlier book when Patroclus died, it was actually Apollo who knocked his helmet off and knocked his armor off, right? Well, now it's Athena's turn to intervene and help. So she goes down and she pretends to be the brother, Deiphobus. And she goes to Hector, appearing as a human, stands beside him, and she speaks these words on wings. She says, dear brother. And she goes on and says, I love you the most by far, right? And pretending to be the brother. And then the bright-eyed goddess Athena spoke to him, dear brother. And then at the end, she comes to the conclusion, let us together rush to battle. Let's take on Achilles together. You don't have to do it by yourself. I'm here next to you. But it's all a trick. It's all a trick. Athena said this and guided Hector with clever tricks. And we realize Apollo has backed off now because Apollo would like Hector to win. But he can't change Moira any more than Zeus can. Nobody can change Moira. They have to accept it. Zeus faces him. Hector faces Achilles. I shall no longer run from you, Achilles, in fear, as I have done 3 times already. They've chased around the walls of Troy 3 times. My spirit urges me to stand and face you. I may kill you or be killed. And then he says, he wants there to be honor in this. And Hector represents honor, but Achilles represents rage still. Hector says, I may kill you or be killed. Let us invoke the gods. They are best as witnesses and guardians of contrast. So let's make a deal. I shall not mutilate you or disgrace you if Zeus grants me the stamina to take your life away, Achilles. He says, if you beat me, don't mutilate my body. Let me have a proper funeral, and I promise I'll do the same for you. Let's make that deal before we fight. But Achilles will not make that deal because he is enraged. And I think to grasp Achilles' rage in this moment, I think we need to imagine the person in the world that we love most. So take a moment and imagine that person in the world, your dearest friend, who you love most. And now imagine Hector, or whoever, killed that person. And that feeling, it's not logical, it's not rational, it's about feeling and emotion, right? That emotion and that anger and that rage. There's nothing rational about it. That's Achilles right now. He is not going to enter into any bargain. If he wins, he is going to be incredibly disrespectful to the body. He says here, Hector, do not speak to me of contracts. Fool, forget about agreements. Lions do not swear solemn oaths with humans, and wolves and lambs do not share common feelings. Their enmity endures forevermore. Just so, there is no way for you and me ever to love each other or be friends, and there can be no oaths between us two. And he goes on, he says, if I win this battle, and I'm going to win this battle, I'm going to show no respect to your body. And we have to remember too, in Greek culture, it is very, very important to get a proper burial so that you can be returned, so that you can go into the underworld and finish your journey. And to be denied that is one of the greatest wrongs that you can do to another human being, right? At this point, they fight, and Hector throws his long-shadowed spear and hurled it, and he didn't miss. He's a great warrior. He hits Achilles right in the middle of Achilles' shield, but the spear bounced and fell far back from it. And Hector was angry, so he, with his left hand in vain, stood there, dispirited because he had no other ashwood spear. He raised his voice and called out to his brother, the warrior whose shield was white, and asked him for his long spear. But he was not nearby. And then Hector understood inside his heart. His brother had never been there. He knew he'd been tricked into fighting against Achilles. The gods have called me to my death. I thought Deiphobus was at my side, but he is on the wall. Athena tricked me. So just like Apollo was the reason that Patroclus died, here Athena is behind tricking Hector into going into this fight and facing Achilles, who will kill him. And Achilles gets him in the throat, the fastest way to death, right? And let's see, I've highlighted this, but I'll not read it. You may have noticed that the Iliad is filled with very violent, descriptive passages, and I tend to I read those silently instead of reading them aloud. We do get though, he gets to speak a little bit after it's clear he's going to die. We see that his windpipe, he has the power to speak, and he's faint and feeble. Hector, his helmet flashing bright, replied, I beg you, by your life, your knees, your parents, do not let dogs devour me by your ships. Accept the bronze and gold, the lavish gifts my father and my noble mother give you. Right? Let me have a funeral pyre. But Lord Achilles scowled and said, Dog! This is the man who killed his best friend. This is the man who killed Achilles' best friend, Patroclus, and he calls him dog. Hector is a dog. Do not talk to me of knees or parents. If I had will and heart to do it somehow, I would carve up your flesh and eat it raw for the abominations you have done me. No one can save you from the dogs, not even if they weigh out and bring me as a ransom 10 times or 20 times the usual rate, and promise even more. Nothing. I'm going to, not only are you about to die, but your body will be mutilated, which is a horrible, horrible thing to have happen to you in Greek culture. Just horrible. And then so spoke Achilles, and then he committed shameful atrocities on noble Hector. He pierces both his feet, and he drags him behind his chariot for everyone to see. All the Trojans can see it from the walls. We get Hecuba began to lead the Trojan women in lament, throbbing cries of pain. My child, how can I live with so much suffering? How can I live on now that you are dead? This is horrible for the whole city, but especially think of Hecuba's pain. And then this passage is referring that she becomes Andromache, his wife. She saw him dragged before the city, dragged to the hollow ships by running horses who took no care to tend him properly. And so ends Book 22. Achilles has the body of Hector, and he is committing great atrocities up on it. He is rage embodied. Uncontrollable rage with almost godlike power behind it. Not quite strong enough to be a god, but almost. In fact, at one point, one of the points I went over very quickly, he was trying to fight with Apollo at one point. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Book 24. We're skipping book 23. Book 23 has Achilles hosts for the Greek camp a set of games, like a little mini Olympics for the Greeks, and he gives out prizes, and this is all in honor of Patroclus. So he has killed the man who killed Patroclus. He has had this elaborate funeral instead of Olympic-like games for his most beloved friend. But when book 24 opens, Achilles is in tears still, thinking about Patroclus and what he's lost. Rage cannot forgive. This is not normal human rage. This is Achilles level rage. Achilles wept as he thought about the friend he loved. All conquering sleep did not take hold of him. He rolled around this way and that and missed Patroclus, his lost youth, his manly strength, their numerous shared adventures and achievements, and all the troubles they endured together in deadly battles and across the waves. And it goes on for a long time. Achilles cries for Patroclus, and then he puts Hector back behind his chariot and drags him, dragging him behind. 3 times around the tomb of dead Patroclus he rode, then stopped again at his own tent. And Apollo pities Hector, because remember, Apollo loved Hector more than anyone. Apollo built the walls of Troy. He's on the side of the Trojans. And Apollo did make sure that Hector's body did not decay over these several days that are about to pass. We're going to find, I believe it's 10 days pass before finally Zeus decides this is enough. And Zeus is the one force powerful enough in the world. He's not as powerful as Moira, but that's the only thing he's not more powerful than. And he decides this is enough. So he calls Thetis to him. And remember, Thetis back in book 1 said, give my son glory. Zeus is going to tell her, I've given him all the glory. He is going to be remembered. His Kleos, K-L-E-O-S, will live forever. And here we are 3,000 years later still reading about Achilles. So Zeus kept his word. But now he calls Thetis and he says, I fixed this glory on Achilles so I would retain your love and your respect in future times. Go quickly to the army. Tell your son the deathless gods are furious with him, and I am angriest of all by far, because in his insanity, his rage, his uncontrollable rage, he keeps Hector beside his hook-beaked ships, refusing to let him go. So Thetis goes down. She says, I bring news from Zeus. He says, the gods are furious with you. You must let Hector's body be returned to the Trojans. And Zeus is going to arrange it so that Priam is going to come collect the body. He will bring you a ransom. That's your Time, T-I-M-E, with the little line across the E. You'll get your Time, you'll get your Kleos. All of that glory is yours, but you need to let him go. You need to let go of this rage. And it takes his mother telling him to do so, and it takes Zeus behind it saying this must be done, and he says, I will do it. So be it. Let someone bring the ransom here and take the corpse, if Zeus himself on Mount Olympus commands it and desires it in his heart. So then Zeus sends a message through Iris, the rainbow goddess, one of the messenger goddesses, and Iris goes down and gives the same message to Priam. And Priam tells his sons, let's get ready. We're going to take the ransom. We're going to collect a big ransom. And we're going to go and we're going to get back Hector's body and give it the proper burial it desires. And he tells Hecuba, his wife, the queen, and she doesn't want him to go. Darling, a messenger has come to me from Zeus on Mount Olympus, and she told me, Iris, told me to go down to the Greek ships to pay ransom. And at this, his wife let out a cry and answered, where have your wits gone? Don't go into the Greek camp. They will kill you there. You are the king, you are their enemy king. She's like, don't do it, but he insists. And he collects this huge wagon full of treasure. 12 extraordinary cloths, 12 single-layered cloaks, blankets, 12 bright white tunics, and many mantles, 10 pounds of gold, 2 gleaming tripods, 4 bowls, and a cup of special beauty, which he got a long time ago, a precious treasure. He spared nothing from his whole house. He took all of the treasure he had, puts it in a wagon, and takes it to give to Achilles. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. We're going to find Hermes helps him get there. Hermes disguises himself first as a human, and then it tells Priam eventually who he is, and says to Priam, I'm going to help you get into the camp. Otherwise, Priam, how would a human get past the guards? But Hermes as a god can do it. And he reveals, this is a long conversation between Hermes and Priam, and Hermes eventually says, oh man, I am a deathless god. Hermes, my father, Zeus, sent me as your guide. And then he goes back. So he gets him through the gates, and then he leaves Priam alone with his driver, driving the cart, to talk to Achilles. And the old king went onward inside the house. There sat Achilles. Great Priam came in unnoticed. He stood near Achilles and touched his knees and kissed his hands, the terrible murderous hands which killed so many sons. So here Priam gets down in front of Achilles, and he makes he supplicates himself before Achilles to ask for the body back and offer the ransom. And he makes this really powerful, moving argument to him. He says, God like Achilles, think of your own father, who is as old as I am. So remember, Achilles, repeatedly in the Iliad, we hear him referred to as Achilles, son of Peleus. He has a human father. Think of your own father, who is as old as I am. Achilles' mother cannot grow old. Thetis cannot grow old as a goddess herself. He says, Hector, I came to your ships for him to ransom him from you. I brought with me a countless ransom. Please, Achilles, show reverence towards the gods and pity me in memory of your own poor old father. And this made Achilles yearn to mourn his father. With his hand he gently took hold of the old man and pushed him back. Then both remembered those whom they had lost. Curled in a ball beside Achilles' feet, Priam sobbed desperately. Achilles wept. And then eventually Achilles speaks and he says, "Poor man, your heart has suffered so much." And finally, remember, Achilles has been angry the whole Iliad, all 24 books. First at Agamemnon from their quarrel, then at Hector, and then even when Hector was dead, still just angry. The first moment we get, he feels pity, and it's because he thinks of his own father in this moment, just like Priam asked him to do. Achilles up here wept at times for his own father and sometimes for Patroclus, and they cry together. And I think that's a powerful, tender moment, and Achilles finally lets go of some of that rage. Now, what's curious, and I think this is a really important moment, he is still, if he were a god, would be the god of uncontrollable rage, even if he can set it aside for a moment when ordered to by Zeus. And look here, we get a line from Priam where he says, "Quickly, hurry, release him. Let me see him, Hector, with my eyes, and take the countless ransom I have brought you." And Achilles doesn't like being bossed around at all and told what to do. And Lord Achilles scowled at him and said, "Do not enrage me now, old man. I had myself already planned to give you Hector." And here he just, that rage he had just quelled down, and now it rises back up. "A messenger was sent by Zeus to me, my mother, who gave birth to me, the goddess daughter of the old sea god. Moreover, Priam, I know who you are, and it does not escape me that some god, Hermes, he doesn't know which god, but he knows some god, escorted you towards the swift Greek ships. No mortal man, however young and healthy, would dare to venture to the enemy camp. No mortal man could have got past the guards or pushed the latch back from our gates with ease. And he threatens him. He says, 'Stop now, old man, or else I will not spare you, although you are a supplant in my tent. And I would violate the laws of Zeus.'" Remember, Zeus is the god of Xenia, 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 the guest-host relationship, right? That's what gods, when a guest comes into your house, which is what's happened here. Priam has come into Achilles' tent. There is an expectation at that point by Zeus that you honor the rules of Xenia. So in some ways, the Trojan War, right, started with a violation of Xenia. And here Achilles threatens momentarily to commit another violation of Xenia. It would be a violation of Xenia against Zeus to kill Priam in his tent here. The old man was frightened and did what he was told. But then Achilles backs back down it once more. But you can just see how he can just barely hold back rage, because that's his thing. He is filled with rage. And then we get Achilles groaning, called his friend, the man he loved, Patroclus. "Do not be angry with me if the news reaches you even in the house of Hades, that when his loving father offered me a proper ransom, I gave Hector back. I will divide the ransom gifts with you, and you shall have fair shares." He means that, I think, symbolically. He can't actually give anything to Patroclus down in Hades. But he says, "Please, Patroclus, forgive me for letting go of my rage." I don't know. You know, we don't know Patroclus as well. Patroclus is not a half-god. He's fully human. I'd like to think that Patroclus is happy to see his friend give up that rage, right? And I want to point out, I mentioned one of the learning objectives for this video. I want to make sure you're familiar with the story of Niobe. And here's why this is really important to me. I think it's really important thematically to the Iliad, but also when we get to Hamlet, Niobe is referenced again. And I want to be able to talk about the myth of Niobe in both of these texts and how it speaks to, how this myth speaks to both different texts. So for now, I just want to make sure everyone knows the myth of Niobe. So expect a question on the practice quiz, in the graded quiz, about Niobe. Niobe was a mother, and she had 12 children, 6 daughters and 6 sons. And she was so proud of her ability to have children that she poked and said, I'm better than Leto, Leto, right here. Niobe compared herself to Leto, who she said gave birth to only 2, while she herself had mothered many children, 12. And Leto is not happy about this, and Leto's 2 children are Apollo and Artemis, the twins, both very good at archery. Their both special skills are archery. And then those 2, as small as their number was, destroyed them all. In 9 days, the children lay besmeared in blood with nobody to bury them because Zeus turned the population into stone. But on the 10th day, the Olympian gods buried the children. And then Niobe took thought of eating. She was tired of shedding tears. Now on the lonely peaks among the rocks of Sipylus, where nature goddesses have their abodes, or so they say, the nymphs who dance around the river Achelous, great Niobe, although she is a rock, consumes the sorrows sent her by the gods. So now Niobe has been turned into a rock on a mountain, and she's there forever, her children dead and buried. And Achilles points out here, I think for himself and for Priam, the point of the story, why Achilles tells it here, even great grief at losing all your children that happened to Niobe, she took time and returned to the necessities of life, and she took time to eat again, right? When we're suffering immense mental and emotional pain, we often don't eat, right? And Niobe, even Niobe eventually eats again. And Achilles tells this story as a way to say, now I want to share a meal with you. And I think there's great power in Greek culture and our culture as well about sharing a meal with people, with another person, and especially with someone who's maybe an enemy in the way that Priam is. And so Achilles has a white sheep slaughtered. They skin and butcher it carefully, slice it with skill, stick it on skewers, and roast it painstakingly. And they eat together. And look at this. When their hunger and their thirst were sated, Dardanian Priam marveled at Achilles, his size, his beauty. He looked like the gods. Achilles marveled at Dardanian Priam, his fine appearance, and the words he spoke. They gazed at one another in surprise. Achilles is able to see humanity in Priam, his enemy, and Priam is able to see humanity, the shared humanity, in Achilles, who has murdered so many of his sons in war. Maybe murdered is the wrong word, but killed so many of his sons in war, right? And at this point, Achilles says, I'm going to give you some time. And Priam says, if you'll give me time to bury my son properly, that's what I need next. And he says, come, now tell me this, and tell me truly. Achilles says, how many days do you intend to mourn with ritual laments for noble Hector? And for that duration I will not make war, and I will hold the army back from battle. I will give you the time you need to properly bury your son according to your customs. And Priam said, if you want me to carry out a proper funeral for Hector, that would be extremely kind. We have to gather wood from far away. Let us mourn him in our home 9 days, and on the 10th we'll hold his funeral. On the 11th we make a mound in memory of him. Then on the 12th day we will fight again, if that must be. Priam doesn't want to continue this war, but he's besieged and unwilling to give back Helen. And what more Moira has said, the Moira for Troy and the Trojans is that they will fall, they will lose to the Greeks. There's nothing that can be done to stop that. Not even Zeus can stop that. At this point, Hermes comes back. He whispers into Priam's ear, "You really got to get going," because Priam was going to spend the night at the tent. But Hermes kind of says, "No, you got to go back," and convinces him to go back. Helps him get back out through the Greek, out of the Greek camp, back to Troy, past the walls, and then the Trojans see him returning with the body, and Hecuba sobs. Right? In tears she spoke and roused unending mourning. And then we see Helen, and she says, "Hector, by far the dearest to my heart of all the brothers, my husband Paris. I wish I had died before that day." She wishes she had died rather than come to Troy. "It has been 20 years since I came here and left my fatherland. But all that time I never heard an insult or bad word from you, from Hector." She's talking to the corpse, right? And this brings us to the end of the Iliad. We get the 12 days, 9 days they gathered wood. The 10th, bright dawn brought light to mortals. They bore out brave Hector with tears and weeping, and they laid his body upon the towering pyre and lit the flames. Let me get the funeral pyre. And thus ends the Iliad. And as I mentioned in the first video lecture, it does not take us all the way to Odysseus and the Trojan horse. We don't get all the way to the end. This has just been a few months, maybe just a little over a month, 2 months. It's not quite clear exactly how long, but a very short part of the 9th year of the Trojan War. All right, next up is a series, a pair of video lectures on the Odyssey. Those come next in the sequence, and in those we'll learn about what happens to Odysseus as he tries to travel home after the Trojan War. All right, I hope you enjoyed these 3 video lectures. I enjoyed giving them, and look forward to learning more with you.